Hello and welcome to today's episode of Chronicles of a Nigerian Woman. I am Fagbeja, your host, and today I'll be reading Angela's story. I was born into a dirt poor family of 7 children in a village in Benue State. I could never have imagined that I would be who I am today, not in my wildest dreams. Contrary to popular opinion, not everyone in the village is poor. Some people are extremely comfortable in the way that village life can afford. Many others are averagely comfortable, and then there are those like us who are poor beyond measure. My father was a drunk and a pool addict. My mother worked hard to get us basic things like food. I was the 5th of 7 children. I cannot explain why my mother continued to allow herself get impregnated by a drunk, but she did until there were 7 of us. My father had sold whatever few assets he inherited to feed his betting addiction. I never knew any form of luxury. School was never even mentioned in the wretched thatched mud house that we called home. I saw some other children go to school in uniforms, but it wasn't even an option for us. I had 3 older sisters who had been taken away to work and only came home once a year at first, but later stopped coming. I did not know my age for sure, but I think I must have been about 10 or 11, and my brother maybe 12 or 13 when it was our turn to be taken away too. It was the beginning of the year. Our mother told us that we would be taken where we would be given food if we worked well. I was not afraid because I thought it was the norm, since I had seen my sisters leave as well. What I felt was a mixture of apprehension and anticipation. Where exactly were we going? What would the place be like? Would I ever come back home? These were my thoughts as I left with the woman who came to take us, Mama D. About 2 days after I left home, we arrived in Lagos, and the next day I was taken to a large house. I don't know where my brother was taken to. When we got to the house, we were met by an elderly woman who I thought was the house owner. She checked my bag and spoke to Mama D in English, so I could not make out what they were saying. But she gave Mama D some money before she left. After Mama D left, I was taken to a room with a bed and a cupboard in it and told to put my bag there. I had 3 wretched outfits in a small bag. Mama D had given me the dress I was wearing and a pair of black rubber slippers before we left Benue. The elderly woman asked me a question and mentioned the word Oyinbo. I guess she was asking if I spoke English, and I shook my head. She looked irritated, but left and came back with a sponge, a toothbrush, soap, and toothpaste, which she handed to me. She brought out a small towel from the cupboard, showed me into a bathroom attached to the room, taught me how to open the tap, and signaled to me to have a bath. I had never been in a bathroom like this before. Neither had I ever used a toilet. I got to know as time went on that this was Iya Ife, the housekeeper. She took me to the kitchen where I was given a meal of rice and fish. I had never eaten a proper meal like that in my life. Later that day, I met our boss, and 2 days later, his wife arrived with 2 children, a boy of about 2 years old and a baby girl. I was told to call her mommy. The day after they arrived, Iya Ife took me to the market and bought me some clothes and 2 pairs of shoes. She had now realized I could speak bits of broken English, so we could communicate a little. With time, I settled into the house. I assisted Iya Ife with house chores and whatever else she needed done. About 3 months later, I had become quite comfortable and was able to communicate a little better. Mommy called me one night to ask if I wanted to go to school. I told her I had never been to school before. She seemed a little surprised, but said I could go. A few days later, a man came to the house and she introduced him to me as my teacher. Mr. Simon started coming to the house 3 times a week, and he taught me to read and write and to do basic arithmetic. Mommy started to buy me storybooks that I could read, and I devoured them like I had been starved. My English improved so much that when Mama D came in December, she could not believe her eyes or her ears. I started to cry and refused to go with her. Mommy discussed with her, and Mama D left me. In January, I was registered in school and put in primary 3. Since then, Mommy and Daddy took charge of my care and education. That was in 2003. Today, I work in a bank in Lagos. I passed my JAMB the first time and got admitted to Unilag, where I studied business administration. Mommy had insisted on meeting my mother the year after I started living with them, and she paid for her to come to Lagos. I later found out that 2 of my elder sisters were working in brothels, and one had got pregnant in the house where she worked and now sold food on the streets. My older brother was now a driver. Mommy had sent money to my mother regularly to enable my younger ones go to school. But I was the lucky one. I blessed the day I was taken to meet the wonderful Oshinusi family. My life was transformed. Any thoughts about Angela's story? Please share in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my stories.